Have a two-parter this morning for coffee, so take a big sip. Here we go. I'm in Matthew chapter 15. Matthew 15. We have two stories about food and God feeding in a way here. We have in 15:10 this passage about the things that defile, right? It's not what you put in your mouth or what comes out of it that defiles. It's what's in your heart that defiles. Anyway, so it's not about the rigid law and the kosher laws that make someone a good person or doing what they're supposed to. Again, Matthew loves this, the rigid religiosity. It's not that saves. It's not, as Paul would say, the law that saves, but what we do with the grace we've been given. Well, actually, I should back up. The grace is what saves, but then we're given an opportunity to live that out. Right? We have this gospel. We have Jesus Christ who's shown us a way, who feeds us. We'll get to in a second. And it's funny, I think Jesus has a very good sense of humor. Sometimes it's a little ironic or dry, but I kind of like that. I'm into it, okay? And Jesus is having this talk about it's not what you put in your mouth, but what comes out of it that defiles. We're talking about food. It's on the mind. It's kind of thematic. And then Jesus heals people he's not supposed to, again, breaking the laws again. And then finally, what does God do to kind of finish this chapter and kind of seal off what God's been talking about? Jesus feeds people. 4,000 to be exact, not 5,000 this time. Only 4,000, right? Oh, the feeding 5,000. Well, he did it multiple times. Anyway, yeah, he sees people are hungry and he feeds them. And thus, it's drawing home this point. It's not Jesus breaking these religious rules that defile Jesus, like healing on the Sabbath, touching Gentiles that are dirty, eating non-kosher. No. What Jesus and God and Jesus Christ is saying is that it's what's in your heart that matters. How you feed others shouldn't be inhibited by these rules, right? God feeds us, and therefore we're invited to feed others, even if it might break rules, even if it might ruffle feathers. Maybe your pastor doesn't approve. But if it's helping people, if it's feeding people, giving people what they need, that's what God's about. God shows it right here in Matthew 15. It's not you're following these rules that make you better. It's not your necessarily the how you are fed, but the intentionality of the feeding. Jesus and God don't feed us so we can follow a rule book to a T. They feed us so we can live. They feed us so we can experience grace and new life in powerful ways. So we can share these gifts with other people. That's what God's up to right here. And so God feeds us so that we can feed others. Jesus models that for us here. And so, next time we're thinking about a new way we can help people, if the sentence comes out, it can't be done, or there's it's not proper to do this, or X, Y, or Z. Well, if it's God's will, who cares if it's proper? Who cares if it's against some rule? Maybe God's up to something new. Maybe God's operating in a way that we don't understand. Maybe God's feeding goes beyond what simply we just put in our mouth. I'm going to leave that one with you, because that one's going to make you think all day. That God's feeding goes beyond what we put in our mouth. Think about that one all day. See you tomorrow.